Hey guys, Kuoku here. The verdict is finally out. Huohuo is our latest abundance unit. Been holding off on making this video, give her a little bit of time to cook and see how well she compares with our current top tier sustains, Luocha and Fushuen. There's been quite a few difference of opinions floating around about Huohuo, so today I just want to take a look at the facts and give you guys my honest conclusions on what her current pool value is, as well as just a quick build guide. I personally think she adds a ton of value for almost anyone's account, but what do you think about Huohuo? Are you pulling for her or perhaps saving for future units? Let me know in the comments. And without further ado, let's get into today's video. Huohuo's kit is filled with an abundance of utility that elevates her beyond the typical abilities of a sustain unit. She is considered to have the most complete kit of any abundance unit so far. On top of her AoE heal, Huohuo has the ability to cleanse, provide an energy regeneration to the entire team, as well as an attack buff. Huohuo has the highest base HP in the abundance path right now. If you were to consider other sustains, however, Fushuen and Japard have her beat in this regard. Huohuo's skill dispels one debuff from the target ally and heals them for 21% of her max HP plus 560. In addition, the two allies adjacent to the target are healed for 16.8% plus 448. Do note that the cleanse is only on the main target and not the adjacent allies, but still she's the best cleanser in the game because of her talent, Possession Ethereal Metaflow. It has the word meta in it for a reason. This talent is crazy strong. After using her skill, Huohuo gains Divine Provision for 2 turns when an ally either starts their turn or uses their ultimate. If Huohuo has Divine Provision, that ally is healed for 4.5% of Huohuo's max HP plus 120. Additionally, any other allies with 50% HP or lower will be healed. When this effect is triggered, one debuff will also be removed from any ally that was healed. This cleanse can be triggered 6 times before you will need to use her skill again to refresh it. Healing is unlimited while Huohuo has the Divine Provision active, and cleanse stacks will not be used if the healed ally has no debuffs or crowd control on them. One more important note on this ability is that the cleanse will prioritize the most recent debuff. So let's say a unit is dominated by Kafka, then gets afflicted by shock. The cleanse will first remove the shock since it was the most recent debuff to be applied. Something I do want to point out is that Huohuo's basic attack actually scales off of max HP. This differs from most units of the same path. Bailu, Luocha, and Natasha have attack scaling basic attacks for some reason. This isn't super important, but it is nice to know since you would expect a support unit like Huohuo to have an HP scaling attack rather than attack percent, since you're not going to be putting any attack percent on this character. But her basic attack is used pretty often to generate skill points for the team, so it is good to know. Tail Spiritual Domination is Huohuo's ultimate. At 140 energy cost, this ability regenerates energy for all allies besides Huohuo herself at 20% of their respective max energy, and also gives a nice 40% attack buff to the team for 2 turns. This lets allies use their ultimate 1 turn earlier, which completely changes the team's cycles and energy thresholds. In order of priority for which skills you should invest into first, it is recommended to start with her ultimate, then skill or talent, then finally basic attack. Huohuo's minor traces give her a total of 28% max HP, 18% effect res, and 5 speed. These are all extremely good stats for Huohuo. As for major traces that you should prioritize, I would recommend getting Stress Reaction to Horror, then the Cursed one, then Fearful to Act. But all are super important and you should try to unlock all 3 as soon as possible. I'll go over what each of them do, starting with Stress Reaction to Horror. This bonus ability is honestly just insane. When her talent is triggered to heal allies, Huohuo regenerates 1 energy. Since she has such a high cost ultimate, this trace is essential to keep a consistent ultimate cycle with her. The energy that this trace provides is also affected by the energy regeneration stat. Now moving on to the Cursed one, which increases the chance to resist crowd control debuffs by 35%. These debuffs include Frozen, Entanglement, Imprisonment, Dominated, Outrage, and Strong Reverberation. Additional effect res is recommended on top of this to reduce the probability of Huohuo not being able to do her job effectively, but this major trace is pretty good to keep Huohuo from getting stunned or debuffed in any way. Finally, we have Fearful to Act, which gives Huohuo divine provision at the start of a battle, lasting for 1 turn. Since we just talked about her talent, I don't need to explain why this is so good. While it is a strong trace though, the least important in my opinion, since the effect will go away after Huohuo takes her first turn, so it really only matters if enemies are super fast and are going to take a turn before Huohuo. Otherwise, this doesn't really matter, and it's not important, but you should still get it. So now you can already see how Huohuo's kit is heavily centered around her talent and her ability to regenerate energy for allies. So let's move on and talk about the best builds for Huohuo. Huohuo's relic sets are pretty simple and straightforward. You can pretty much follow this flowchart. If you're a newer player or haven't cleared in-game content yet, 2-piece Passerby of Wandering Cloud with 2-piece Longevous Disciple is going to be the best to increase healing output and survivability. Personally, I wouldn't recommend a 4-piece Passerby since the extra skill point isn't really necessary, but some people recommend it, and it definitely isn't bad if those are the best relics that you have. Once you can survive without needing to use Huohuo's skill every turn, you can switch to 2-piece Messenger of Traversing Hackerspace with 2-piece Passerby. This combines the best possible healing output with additional utility. The speed bonus that Hackerspace gives is great to give Huohuo a boost for more frequent ultimates and heals. Even a 4-piece Hackerspace isn't too bad to give a speed boost to the whole team when Huohuo uses ultimate, and more ultimate cast on your team is always going to be good, and it's especially going to be good for a support unit. Now for the planetary sets, I'm going to recommend Fleet of the Ageless or Broken Keel. The main reason I recommend these sets over the new Penacony Land of Dreams is because most players are not going to have farmed this one yet, since it just came out in the recent patch, but most of you are going to have good pieces of Fleet or Broken Keel already, so it's good to just start there, and if you eventually get some decent Penacony pieces, then you can switch over, but do keep in mind that it does depend on the circumstances which set you want to use. Under most circumstances, Fleet of the Ageless is going to be the best support set, thanks to max HP and healing boost, but Broken Keel is going to be recommended if you're using Huohuo with a crit ratio DPS like Zila, Imbibitor Lune, or Jingliu, and others, since this support set provides a nice crit damage increase. If you do have the new Penacony set, then this works really nicely with Huohuo, as the extra energy regeneration will help Huohuo's cycles and give a pretty good damage boost to wind allies if you're running Blade, Sampo, or 4-star Dan Heng. So I would only recommend this set under those circumstances. As for main stats, you'll want the typical sustain stats, that being outgoing healing or HP percent body, speed boots, HP percent sphere, and energy regeneration rate or HP rope. In general, outgoing healing is preferred over HP percent because the healing increase is greater from outgoing healing than from HP percent. But if your HP is on the lower side, HP percent is good on the chest piece. However, I would recommend looking to upgrade to outgoing healing as soon as you can. And HP percent rope is also kind of fine if you don't have an ERR rope, but I would try to get an energy rope as soon as you can. I know it's rough. Try to get one, because this will improve your Huohuo's quality of life greatly. For substats, you should look for HP percent and speed as the highest priorities, followed by effect res, then defense percent, then flat HP or defense. Eidolon 1 is extremely strong. I've heard some people say that it's her strongest Eidolon, and actually that it's one of the strongest Eidolons of any support unit in the game. So the duration of Divine Provision is going to be extended by 1 turn, and so for all 3 turns that it's active, all allies on the team get a 12% speed buff. I don't really need to tell you why this is so strong. Speed is always going to be good. Her E2 essentially turns her into Bailu, giving her a resurrect and consuming 1 stack of Divine Provision when this triggers. This can be used twice per battle, whereas Bailu's is only once per battle. But this Eidolon is really strong, but with a properly built account, this isn't really necessary since you're not really going to need to be reviving. And it's kind of ironic, in fact, because if your Huohuo is sustaining the way that she should be, you shouldn't really need to have a res. I mean, it can happen, you can get 1 shot, but this Eidolon isn't very necessary overall in my opinion. Now for Huohuo's Eidolon 4, the amount of healing from her skill and talent is increased based on the less HP the target ally has. This one is kind of awkward as well, because with her talent triggering constantly to heal allies, The odds of this Eidolon being procced for any allies being low HP is pretty slim. I have an E0 Huohuo right now, and I've never had an issue sustaining the team. Now, I haven't had a chance to test her out in all content yet, but I don't really see this Eidolon as super necessary, as I haven't had a problem healing whatsoever. Lastly, her E6 is gonna be like her final evolution from an abundance unit to a harmony unit. This Eidolon will essentially give your team a permanent 50% damage increase, since Huohuo's healing is mostly going to be procced at least once within every 2 turns, so this gives this buff a pretty much 100% uptime. This is super strong. Overall, I would say that Eidolon 1 is going to be the most impactful when it comes to investment versus the outcome and the value that you get from it. If you're stuck between choosing E1 or her signature light cone, Knight of Fright, E1 is going to be more valuable in my opinion, since there are plenty of alternative light cone options, which we're going to talk about next. As usual, the signature light cone is going to be the best in slot. For Huohuo, that is going to be Knight of Fright. At S1, this light cone gives Huohuo an additional 12% energy regeneration and heals the ally with the lowest HP percentage when any ally uses their ultimate by an amount equal to 10% of the healed ally's max HP. When this healing occurs, the healed ally also has their attack increased by 2.4%. This effect can stack up to 5 times and last for 2 turns, so at the maximum of 5 stacks, the attack would be increased by a total of 12%. Bailu's signature light cone, Time Waits for No One, is going to provide the best healing output of all the abundance light cones, but since it provides no energy regeneration, if your Huohuo can already sustain the team without this light cone, then I would not recommend it, and I would recommend going for something that gives her a little bit more utility. One example of that is going to be post-op conversation. So overall, if you're not going for her signature light cone, this is probably going to be the best option that most players will use. At S3, this light cone gives 12% energy recharge, which is the same as Knight of Fright's S1. At S5, post-op conversation gives 16% energy regeneration as well as 24% increased outgoing healing on ultimate, which sadly does not affect Huohuo since her ultimate doesn't do any healing, but this light cone still allows for a 3-turn ultimate rotation, so if you're able to sacrifice the extra healing for some utility, then this light cone is going to be very good. We do have another option which I want to talk about, and that's the new event light cone Hey Over Here. Everyone can get this at S5 for free if you complete the event A Foxy and Tale of the Haunted, which is going on right now. This is a fantastic alternative if you're not pulling for Huohuo's signature light cone, or you just don't want to use post-op conversation. This light cone increases max HP by 12% as well as increases outgoing healing by 28% after the wearer uses their skill. This effect lasts for 2 turns and affects all healing output, so in Huohuo's case it does benefit her skill as well as her talent. Overall, Huohuo's signature light cone is definitely not a must, and I would first pick up E1, then if you still want to pull more after that to increase Huohuo's strength, then you can consider getting her light cone, but definitely get E1 first. The discussion of team compositions for Huohuo can actually get quite complex, so I'm going to try to keep things as quick and general as possible here. Unless you're going for a super optimal team comp in order to zero cycle or something like that, she can sustain and support really any composition in the game, kind of just like any solo sustain unit. Huohuo works really well with other supports like Tingyun and Bronya, especially Tingyun because then you're just piling on energy regeneration at that point. She's the strongest when paired with units that have high energy cost ultimates, because that's when you're going to regenerate the most amount of energy, since her ultimate regenerates 20% of that unit's max energy. She can really help any DPS in the game, since your DPS is going to want to use their ultimate as much as possible. She works really well with hypercarry comps, with Jingliu, Imbibitor Lune, Zila, as well as follow-up like Jingyuan, Topaz, Himiko, Herda even, and even dot comps, Kafka, that kind of thing. You can literally use her in any team comp in the game. In my opinion, Huohuo is an incredible support unit that sits just below Fu Xuan in terms of overall strength, but not by that much. She's generic and can fit into any team comp, making her good for anyone's account. The only exception I would say is if you already have Fu Xuan and Luocha, then Huohuo might not be necessary for you unless you just really like the character. But if you already have 2 sustain units, you don't really need a third. And the best way to describe Huohuo is a support with healing rather than a healer with utility. So with the right setup, a well-crafted team, and a well-built DPS, she can make your team much stronger with faster ultimate uptime, as well as keeping them debuff free. I think she's easily the strongest abundance unit in the game and definitely worth picking up. Luocha is very strong of course, and if you already have him, you don't need Huohuo, but Huohuo's utility pushes her beyond Luocha and other sustains. And now with that, we've reached the end of this video. I would love to hear your all's feedback and thoughts on Huohuo, as well as anything I might have left out in this video. Anyways, I'm signing off now. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.